Alright, it is Monday morning and the wood chips are done. Me and my dad got all the wood chips out, completed that fourth giant pile, and they're all out in the yard. So technically I could call that job complete. I do think I want eventually to get at least one more load just to kind of even out some low spots, some thinner spots, and also just to add some inches to just the whole thing, which really would take more than just one load. So maybe eventually more than one load, but for now I'm gonna call that done for a bit anyway. It was a long journey, but here we are. Okay, my mom wanted to plant some cabbage, and in this bed over here, this bed right here. And so I went ahead and, as you can see, put in the squares, and we planted mammoth red rock cabbage in the first 3 squares, and then we skipped 3 squares because then in a couple of weeks we'll plant more of those. And then in the 3rd row is golden acre cabbage, and then we skipped 3 for more of those 2 weeks later, and then in the 5th row is Chinese cabbage, and then in 2 weeks we'll put more of those in too. So here are the carrots, and they're doing decently, I think. As you can tell, the ones in the middle seem to have germinated at a much higher rate, and each row, there's 3 rows here, and each row is a different type of carrot, and I can't remember off the top of my head which row is which type. I'll have to go back and look at the video and see which ones I planted where, but the ones in the middle definitely seem to be doing better. And then we also have some onions that are coming up here. Quite a few onions. I'll have to thin those out eventually, as in addition to having to thin out the carrots as well. And then on top of that's growing, and then on top of the ones that my mom and I just planted in this bed, we also have some seed starts that we put in small little cups and trays and stuff that are up on the back porch, and I'll show you those probably when I'm eating lunch. I'll go ahead and show you those because we have quite a few things of lettuce that have already sprouted up there, some carrots that have sprouted, some cabbage that have sprouted, and then those are going to get transplanted into these beds over here as well eventually, in a couple of weeks or so, when they're ready to be transplanted into this bed and into the other half of this bed. So looking like we're gonna have some decent stuff. Oh, and I planted some beans. I started some bean plants up on the back porch as well, because those, the beans that are growing right here, those other ones seem not to be coming up. So I'm gonna see if I can just get them to germinate in a little pot, and then I will transplant them out here. I planted 4 of each type. I planted 4 dragon's tongue, and I planted 4 lima beans. And so they will go, when those are ready to be transplanted, there's some spots here that they can go. I'm also gonna build another trellis right here for more beans. Oh, and last thing for sort of like updates for today, I did use the takedown spray from Monterey. Yesterday evening I came out with the takedown spray, and I sprayed the beans and the squash plant right here and all the cucumber plants. Is that it? Yeah, I sprayed all of that with the takedown spray. So that was yesterday. On Sunday, the Saturday before that, a week ago, I had sprayed the neem oil. So the neem oil was 2 weeks ago, and then yesterday was the takedown spray, which is pyrethrins or something. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but and that supposedly is what you kind of want to do, is rotate those every other week, so that you're alternating which spray you're putting in, so that the insects can't get used to and don't become immune to the ingredient that you're using. So I'm hoping that keeps the things off of this stuff. That'll be really great if I could just keep insects off of all these things, all those aphids off the okra, which the aphids seemed not to be that big of a deal. They haven't returned to the okra after I blasted them with water. So, I mean, aphids seem not to be a very formidable foe formidable garden foe. Speaking of okra, I do need to harvest the okra today. Looks like there's quite a few that need to be harvested. I'm probably gonna cut the grass today. It definitely needs to be cut. It's just, I think it's still a little wet because the sun hasn't really come out. It's been very overcast and it might rain today, so. However, I am gonna check on the compost. Probably going to pull the compost out right now, put it back in. I think it's pretty close to being done. Actually, I have no idea. Okay, less than 120 degrees to start out with. Now I'm gonna pull it out and put it back in. And I try to water it as I go. Okay, so I thought I was crazy. At the very beginning of that time lapse, I don't know if you can tell in the time lapse because things go by so fast, but I was like, I had moved the wood paneling, and then I just like stood there and was looking at the compost bin for a while, and then was like really hesitant to start shoveling stuff out because I could have sworn I saw something moving, and it was like kind of big, and I was like, what the frick was that? So, you know, eventually I started shoveling, and I had convinced myself in my head that it was just like some piece of the compost fell, and I just, you know, in my peripheral vision, it just like looked like something was moving. Nope, there's definitely something here. Because I just saw it again, for like absolutely this time, and I'm pretty sure it's a little mouse. Now, why the crap is there a mouse living in my compost bin? I don't know if you could see that on the video, but he literally just, oh, he just came back out. I don't know where he went. He went back into the compost bin and then came back out and ran somewhere. I was reading just a minute ago about it, and there's quite a lot of information about mice and rats even in the compost bin. That was definitely a mouse, small little mouse. The worst thing is that they can carry diseases, but apparently there's like not great amounts of research on how often or how common or how likely that is to happen. And there's all sorts of, people claim all sorts of ways to help prevent them. One of which is just turning the compost bin often. Just disturbance. If there's a lot of movement, a lot of disturbance, then a mouse isn't going to want to be there. So I might have to do that. Just like flip this thing every other day or something. Oh, never a boring day, apparently, when it comes to compost. So behind me, over here, and over here are where we have planted the starters that are going to go out and whenever they're ready to kind of be the second round or third round-ish of plants for fall. And those include, there's some cabbages that have already come up. That's the red mammoth, red rock, whatever, I can't remember what they're called. Those are cabbages, and there is quite a few lettuces that have come up. And those lettuces probably need to be transplanted into individual little tray pieces to where each one has its own section. And I actually just ordered some trays, so hopefully those will be here on Wednesday, and then I can transplant those into their individual little place. And then, because that just makes it easier to go ahead and transplant them from their individual little cup that they're in to the ground, because when you try to do it when they're all together like this, it kind of can be difficult if you let them grow up to where they're ready to be transplanted. Then when you go to pull them apart, their roots are going to be all tangled up, and then it just like causes a whole lot of stress and damage to them, so they are less likely that they're going to be successfully transplanted. So I would like to move them into individual little cups in a tray before they get ready to be transplanted. And then I also planted some more beans, but those haven't sprouted yet. So I just planted those, I think, yesterday or the day before. And there's the carrots. There's carrots too that are starting to come up. And then there's also some butternut squash that my mom planted that is sprouting as well. So quite a lot of stuff ready that will be ready in a couple of weeks, or maybe even a month or so, to be transplanted into the garden. Hopefully all that goes well. We'll probably lose some in the transplant, so you always want to plant more than what you plan on actually using, just so if they don't germinate or if the transplant doesn't work, then you have enough. So okay, that's the backyard cut. I also cut all back here too. I didn't film that though. And this pathway that runs down the side of the ditch, in between the ditch and our fence. And that gave me, once again, lots of green material, to which I need to add brown material. So maybe tomorrow I'll chip up some more sticks and stuff to add brown material to this new pile, the building pile. I can't believe there was a mouse in here, man. I don't know what to do. I mean, I could set a trap back here, I guess. That's not really ideal, but or I could just move this pile like every other day and just through disturbance make the mouse realize that this is not a good place for him to live. Maybe that'll work. Okay, last thing I want to do today is water some of the plants. We already watered the stuff we planted today in this other bed, but I want to make sure that the cucumbers and the beans and stuff have moist soil. Their soil hasn't dried out.